the clients that are looking to move to Portland, Oregon, please reach out to me. I'm not a licensed real estate agent, but I do know the best here in town. I would be happy to make an introduction for you. So let me begin by saying, first and foremost, Erik Hatch, thank you for coming on the show today.
Justin, my man. If I'm here for the second time, it means I wasn't terrible the first time. So glad to be back.
It's a pleasure, man. I'll tell you what, for those that don't know Erik, his team is the 49th highest producing real estate team in the country. They sold 664 homes in 2018 and are getting after it again in 2019. And amidst all of that, one of my favorite things about you, Erik, is that a lot of really high producing teams, you walk into their office and there's listings all over the place. There's goals and metrics, as you know, these thermometers of, are we almost there? Describe to the audience what is on your wall in kind of one of your conference rooms.
Well, our goal is to create champions with what we do. And so, of course, we do have some things up there that are tracking. We believe in scorecards. It comes from the 4 Disciplines of Execution, which has been a great book in our world. But what's the main thing in our training room is over the whiteboards, it says we're in the business of helping people. We just happen to sell real estate. And then on our back wall, what I've done is I've taken a picture of every person's family or pets, whatever they deem most important to them. And we have that up in our training room as a reminder and as the constant watchers of what we do and how we do it. So we make sure that we're consistently serving instead of being selfish.
And it's so consistent with what this is all about, right? Is that even the Think Bigger real estate show, it's about thinking bigger than real estate. The real estate can be a vehicle through which you can bless and serve a lot of people. And I know you, Erik, you even had a passion at one point in your life to be part of the ministry, but you felt like you got called to serve through real estate, also impacting people's lives in deep and meaningful ways. Talk to us a little bit about how that came about.
Well, I still feel like I'm in a service-based, ministry-esque kind of environment. Ministry for me was what I did right out of college. It was the best job you could ever have that doesn't pay you well at all. And I was in the ministry. I did youth ministry and led worship for about 8 years, built some nonprofit movements throughout the community as well, and was just fired up about it. But I needed to take better care of my family. And what it came down to was my wife and I desperately wanted kids. In fact, my son Simon is in the room right now. He's 3 and just had his tonsils taken out this last week. So he may jump on camera and say, "What's up?" But we wanted so desperately to have kids, and we ran into major infertility. And the only way I could be a dad was if I was able to fund it. And the only way I could fund it was not by working at a nonprofit, but by working in real estate. I was selling real estate part-time, and I needed that financial acumen in order to really be a dad. Now I have 2 kids. My daughter Finley is almost 5. My son Simon just turned 3. And I am just smiling from ear to ear with where we're going.
You know, it's really fun to see somebody like you who has a heart like that was willing to at one point, work for not much money, but just to impact. But then you realize how much more impact can one have when you take, when you take that heart and put it into a business that can impact even more people. And I see your beautiful son right here on the camera today. Let's introduce him. Is this Simon?
This is Simon. Simon, can you say hi? No, good to be shy.
Simon, it is a pleasure to have you on the Think Bigger Real Estate Show, my friend. You know what? A lot of what we do, Simon, is for people like you. It's to inspire the next generation, to inspire all of us to be a little bit more like you. Yeah. So thanks.
He's not listening, but I am.
Thanks for making a guest appearance, Simon. So let's jump into, again, your book, right? So you have this heart to serve people, to be a servant leader. You realize that real estate is a vehicle through which you can do that and provide for your family in the way that you want to. Let's talk a little bit about how the book came to be.
Well, I'll hold it up here so people can see. It's like a double twin with me right here. I'll just try to shade some of my face as well, so I'll just match it. It's called Play for the Person Next to You, A Guide to Servant Leadership. And it had been on my heart to write a book for probably 5 or 6 years. There's this interesting thing that happens, Justin, when you decide to write a book, because what you're doing is you're saying, I'm an expert in something. And I actually don't think of myself as an expert. I think of myself as a student. And I have studied leadership. And what happened was I got into real estate full time from the ministry in 2011. I built a team in 2012. In the beginning of 2013, everything crashed down on me. I failed so tremendously. I got kicked out of the brokerage that I was at. I went from a team of 13 people down to a team of 3 people, myself and 2 others, overnight. I invited everybody on the team to come with, and nobody said yes except for 2 of them. And I realized that I was chasing transactions and I was failing to think about transformation. It was all about me instead of all about we. And so I buckled down and I put my head in and I said, Erik, you are still that servant that you were made to be. And I had really lost that in my first couple of years of jumping into this for-profit lifestyle. I was chasing things that were empty promises, and they really weren't life-giving. I think of things like this. I think of the idea of profit. And if you ask most people, what's the purpose of business? People will say profit. But I think that that's as maybe foundational as saying that the purpose of life is breathing. It's absolutely essential to what you're doing, but it's not the purpose. The purpose of business is not profit. The purpose of business is to live out your purpose and to make a difference. Just like the purpose of your life is not breathing, but it's to serve. And in fact, that work has already been set aside for you to do. And so I've made the conscious decision from 6 years ago that I was going to restart. And at that time, I recognized what I'm saying is maybe a little bit different than what the mainstream of business and real estate is saying. And so from that, God put it on my heart to write a book, and I didn't know what it was going to look like, and I didn't know when I was going to write it. But I finally said, enough is enough about talking about your dreams, and instead start actually acting on them. And so here I am now, 6 years later, and I have my first book in my hand.
And talk to us about the process of writing a book. Was it as challenging as many people say?
It sucks. I don't know how else to spin it. It is not a sexy thing by any means. I worked with a publishing company out of Charleston, South Carolina. They're called Advantage. And so I went out to Charleston for a couple of days. We laid out the book, what we thought it would be like. I met with all these advisors and learned about the process. From there, I spent about 4 months working with a ghostwriter. It wasn't me writing it. It was me telling the story, and then the ghostwriter would trim the fat of a sort and bring back the chapters for me to edit. The editing process took so much time, but the actual speaking of the book, boy, I probably spewed out things for 20 or 25 hours and called it good.
It's a powerful thing to have, to go through that process. I say that because I'm in the process of writing a book right now. I will tell you.
Are you writing it yourself or working with a ghostwriter?
It's not a ghostwriter. I have an editor that accompanies me every week, and we go through and review the work that I've done based on an outline that we created together. And it's the only time I can do it to where I have complete blank space to focus is from 4 to 6 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, it's been a little tough. I'm a little more sleepy in the kind of late evenings than I'd like to be. But it's an amazing process at the same time. And you can probably attest to this because it causes you to really have to refine your thoughts and your stories to make them both entertaining as well as, very advantageous. So I admire you for doing it. I haven't done it yet. I'm trying to do it. I'm attempting to do it. I intend to do it. But I admire you that you've done it. And it looks like an amazing, amazing read. I'm so excited to actually get into more of it.
Thanks. Nobody's told me it stinks yet, so I think I'm onto a good track there. There's this interesting thing, and you're going to learn it. Is I'm a speaker, and that's what I do most naturally. I love having a microphone in my hand. I'm one of those sick and demented people in that sort of way. But when I speak, I get instant feedback from people. You can see the whites of their eyes, the smiles on their faces, the energy that comes from my communication, and so it's pretty great. And when you write a book and you put it out there, all of a sudden you wonder, okay, Justin has my book. He hasn't said anything yet. He hasn't read it. So why hasn't he read it? Why doesn't he think it's good enough to read? Is it just book number 12? Did he just humor me in buying the book? No, he has read it, but he hasn't told me what he thinks about it yet. Like, oh my gosh, why hasn't he given me any feedback? He must think it's terrible. And I'm just like in my own head because I'm a super high I, unapologetically. And I'm looking around being like, will somebody please tell me I'm pretty? That's all I want. and with the book, what I realized is the goal was not to have everybody tell me, Erik, you wrote a fantastic book. The goal was to dream big and to take a step And even if it's not a 10 out of 10, I'm very confident in the book I wrote. I feel like there's some huge nuggets. If you're in business in general, there's going to be some big takeaways for you. But the actual success of it for me is not in the number of sales I have or the number of people that give me attaboys. It instead is figuring out what I'm dreaming and actually acting on it, because that for me is the momentum I need to get to where I want to go.
Boy, you articulated that so well that it really doesn't matter what the outcome is. It's the growth that happens to you along the process, the clarity of your mission as to how you can best serve the world. And I'm impressed by what you shared right there. What are some key takeaways, Erik, that people are going to love about the book that you want to kind of whet their appetite a little bit as far as what it's going to teach them? What are people going to get? How are they going to become better by reading your book?
I think the final chapter, the final notes is the summation of the entire book. And I talk about the idea of crossing your arms. And I think most of us cross our arms like this. Mm-hmm. And we live so tightly wound that we don't really let anybody in. And my faith tells me to cross my arms like this, right? But the idea is, if we're going to cross our arms like this, these hands have to be doing something. One hand is for serving. And I think that most people can hear servant leadership. And if they're going to buy the book, they probably subscribe to that idea, or they're one of my family members looking to humor me. But I think that most people are like, yes, I'm buying a book because it already aligns with my level of thinking, servant leadership. But if you're going to be balanced, think of you if you're walking a tightrope. And if you're walking a tightrope, your arms are out like this, right? You can't walk a tightrope like this. Yeah. And the higher you go, the more pressure that comes on you, the more important it is in your life to have balance. And the balance is, one of these arms is serving and taking care of other people, but this other one means you have to let other people take care of you. In our organization, we've climbed to be one of the top 50 real estate teams in the country in exceedingly fast amounts of time. And we've done so because we've figured out that balance piece. We have integrated into our system and our organization checks and balances and ways in which we can make sure that we're creating champions out of people. And we've curated an environment where we're talking about the tough stuff, and we're letting other people into our world and into our lives so that we can climb higher and higher and higher.
One of the things that I admire, I see a lot of people struggle at building a real estate team or any team in general. And I think, especially in the world of real estate, you have a lot of entrepreneurial minded people who go into real estate in order to be in business for themselves. And then they're presented with the case of being a part of a team. And it's like, wait a minute, I got into business not to work for somebody, but to be part of a team. And I always admire those teams that succeed, because what it tells me is that those people that have built that team and built that platform for others to rise upon have done so in such a way that people realize that they're going to get farther in life by being on that team than being by themselves. And that their brand is improved upon by having their brand associated with Hatch Realty, for example, than by just having their own brand. And it's a great testament to what you guys have built, and what you are teaching in the book is that you've built something that's not about building a statue to Erik Hatch, right? This isn't about building you. And I hear that in everything that you say, what you've written, and the team that you've built, that's people like Robbie that are deeply committed to this cause, that it's much bigger than you. This is a cause. This is about making them champions, not making you the champion, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Zig Ziglar says you can have everything in life you want if you help enough others get what they want. And for me, I live in abundance every day. Now, there's this divine irony that happens in our world, and that is my name and my face are on everything. It's Hatch Realty, and it's my face on every sign, and Hatch is my last name. And so I think of myself like Colonel Sanders. I maybe created the recipe, but I'm not in the kitchen anymore, and I don't deserve any of the credit. And so my job as a leader is to shine a light on everybody else. The best leaders take all the blame and give all the credit. And my hope is to figure out what it is that people want in their world, what makes them come alive, and to create an environment that allows them to do that. We have a company we're birthing here very soon, and it's a spinoff. We have an agent who's climbed and climbed and climbed in our world for the last 5 years, and has hit a point that is usually the flight mentality for people. a lot of real estate teams exist, and like once people get to like right here, they abandon it and they say this team won't serve me anymore. In our world, our folks have climbed all the way up to here and here, and we have a guy named Kyle who's climbed up to here. He's doing 40 sphere deals a year, plus another 50 or 60 from the team. So closing 100 transactions and 40 of those from his sphere annually. Amazing success for this young man. He's 29 years old, and he should be leaving. According to what real estate team says, he should be leaving. And instead, we're building another business together. And we're chasing down the dream, and we're figuring out how he can not just have the abundance of money, but instead we want to create real wealth in his world. That's the right culture, that's the right time in his life, and that's an abundance of resources, and that includes money.
I find that the best leaders, like you said, live in abundance, and they realize, like, if I want to stay in business with top talent, I'm going to have to think a little bit different. I'm going to have to think a little bit bigger, and I'm going to have to create a world big enough to where they can build their empire on my soil. Right.
Yes, sir.
And it sounds like that's what you've done here. And it's not a one size fits all, right? Sometimes you get a talented person that doesn't fit the mold, and you have to be a little bit creative to say, how can I continue to be in business with this person, as opposed to just being a part of their past? How can I continue to be a part of their present, a part of their future, and help them get to where they want to go even faster, even better, because we're in partnership, as opposed to just saying, hey, it's been great. Thanks for all the lessons. Thanks for everything. Let's be friends.
Yeah. I hear my son pouring some water. That has me freaked out here. We're going to have a mess to clean up when this is done.
Well, we can about wrap it up here. So I want to thank you for what's shared. How do people get their hands on the book, Erik?
If you go to hatchingleaders.com, again, I put my name on everything. So if you go to hatchingleaders.com, you can pick up your own copy of Play for the Person Next to You. They're wonderful stocking stuffers for Christmas. We have a lot of real estate teams buying this for all their team members. There's 12 chapters, so they're doing book studies of it. And we're just excited to have it as a part of people's worlds.
Hatching Leaders. I love it. We'll put that in the show notes and invite everybody to go get a copy. It's going to make you a better person, a better parent, a better business entrepreneur, a better leader. I'm excited for people to get their hands on it. I want to end with this question, Erik. You've been asked the question before. I'm going to ask you again, which is, you are a big thinker. You are constantly expanding your own possibilities as well as the possibilities of other people. How do you continue to do that? What's advice you can give to this audience that will help all of us continue to be big thinkers, to continue our own big thinking?
I just wrote out a 1-3-5 for my life. 1 objective, 3 steps to get there, and 5 sub-steps that'll help me do it. And I revisit that every couple of months, and I cast a really big vision to figure out where I want to go. I think that we often overestimate where we can get in 1 year and underestimate where we can get in 5 or 10. And so if I'm thinking big enough and long enough, I'm going to make sure that I'm continuing to make sure that the steps today are going to get me to where I want to go tomorrow. And so I'm not thinking about tomorrow, I'm thinking about 5 years from now, and reverse engineering that back.
And that's a powerful practice, isn't it? It's that time of year, especially for those that are in real estate and even for those that are not, where October 1st is really January 1st. Jay Papasan said that recently on a webinar that I listened to.
Yeah.
And although people think of business planning as something they do between Christmas and New Year's, the results that you're going to get in January are because of activities you're going to do starting this week. And so I think it's essential that all of us take heed to that and say, what is it that I want to be creating, not just for 2020, but for 5 years out? It's powerful, man. Super powerful. Anyway, for those who have not had a chance to get their hands on Erik's book, you can go to hatchingleaders.com. You can get a copy of it there. I'll be the first one, I guarantee, after the show to go get it. And I want to thank you, Erik, despite being at home, attending to those things that are most important, potentially having some water damage in the background while you've been on the show. I want to thank you for coming on the show today. And I want to do one final last charge to everybody listening, which are 3 simple words, and they are go, think bigger. Erik, thank you so much for helping us do that today. It's a total honor to have you as a friend, and I'm excited about what you're doing.
You're the man, Justin. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
My pleasure, man. Talk to you soon.